Hello, folks. Welcome back to another very special episode of Generation Red, the kettle corn of Husker Podcast, where we try to be sweet, but at times we get salty. I am your host, Ken, and I am here tonight with my buddies Justin and Derrick from the Husker Cuz Cast. It's been a while since we've been on a stream together. My count, I think it might have been August when we did this before the season started, like mid-August, somewhere in there.
August 25th.
August 25th. Wow, you actually wrote it down. You feel ignored for a long time, Justin? Is that why you wrote down the date?
You have this big, beautiful beard going on. I mean,
yeah, it took since August 25th to grow it. I decided it's cold enough now that I don't mind the itch if I'm a little warmer. So
it's even cold here in Texas, Ken. I mean, it's like in the, 30s. It's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, what have you seen the pictures? Like LSU Stadium is covered with snow, and they got like 3 inches in freaking Florida. I'm like, yeah, Jesus is fixing to come back pretty soon with all this crazy weather.
We got flurries here in Waco, but no snow stuck. Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. So what's been going on, guys? I listened to your latest episode where you kind of gave a same, better, worse, or whatever the hell it was for the transfer portal out versus transfer portal in. I thought it was an interesting grading system you guys used, and it was one of the more contentious shows I think I've heard from you guys in a while too. Without being mean, it was a great debate without being too mean. It was really cool.
Yeah, so what we did is we looked at the transfer portal, because if you look at the rankings throughout the nation, whether it's on 3 or 24/7, there's a huge discrepancy. So we looked at it when I say discrepancy, it's like where Nebraska ranks and like top 10 versus in the 30s, right? Mm-hmm. And so we wanted to look at it ourselves in terms of the transfer portal, in terms of net gain, net loss, or the same.
Right.
So that's what we did. And most of the position groups we agreed on. We did disagree, like what we always do, but it was fun. It was a fun exercise.
That's what makes your show fun is the disagreements and whatnot, and the fact that none of you could rarely agree on anything. So and if there's one spot you can poke, you're going to poke the living daylights out of it until the other guy, shuts his mic off or whatever. It's great.
And that's why Tyler's not here tonight, right?
Which is So never mind the fact that he wasn't here for the show when we actually gave our over-unders, but and Scott was, but he's not with us tonight. He's taking a break from the podcast for the off season for a little while anyway. New dad, new young family, trying to figure all that out and try to take a whole night to prep for a podcast. It was a little much, so told him to take some time. And of course, we've updated our cast. We've got Justin from the Nebraska college football, or Nebraska, the voice of college football, is part of our cast now, along with BA from the BA Coaches Show, which is really cool. He's been interviewing for offensive coordinator positions down in the Kansas City area. So I'm looking forward to hearing some news on that pretty soon. But yeah, having a dude in the studio that can break down a video live, of a play or whatever, and kind of get that perspective. And then you've got Justin, who's just recruiting, breaks down film from guys from the recruiting tapes, and he gets it right down to the minute details. It's so great to have that kind of knowledge. Me, I'm just a blowhard. So it's nice to have somebody on the show that brings something besides speculation and hoping to maybe put out a decent show. So but tonight it's going to be fun. We're going to get back to the results of the over-under game that we played back in August. We only did 6 full categories, but we had a couple of bonus questions for each category. And I saw your tweet earlier, Justin, talking about you should be interested in the results, and the results are interesting. I'm shut out, so we'll throw that out on the table. Spoiler alert, I got absolutely shut out on this one, which that's nothing new. I think I've only won one damn category the whole time we've done this show in 4 years. So
you almost had to be a pessimist headed into the season.
Yeah.
You do well. I mean, I know when we did our season recap, we were way off from where we thought the season was going to go in the preseason. Everybody had these fantastic expectations, and they ultimately it just didn't pan out the way that everybody thought.
No, I mean, looking back, as I looked at the numbers, especially on the offensive side, my brain immediately went to the place of, what were you thinking? Why did you predict what you predicted, knowing full well the track record of the dude that was going to be calling the plays?
I'll tell you why. Because you were lied to by the media and the coaches for 6 damn months, and you were told about how great Jamal Banks was. You were told how great Isaiah Nair was going to be, and you had this 5-star quarterback who everybody overestimated. And so you thought, oh man, this offense could go. The coordinator is really not going to slow it down because we got the players to actually do it now. And none of them panned out. I mean, I shouldn't say none. I'm not going to say Dylan Raiola didn't pan out, but he had a rougher year than I think people anticipated.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had a much rougher year than anyone anticipated. And I think
if you could change that, I tried to warn everybody of that before we even started the season. But I think
Scott was even kind of the same way.
Yeah, I think even to my standards, I think he struggled a little more than I thought he would. He threw more interceptions than I think I thought he would at least. The rest of his stats I thought was pretty about where I thought he'd be. But
yeah, you know what? I thought he played well until we got to Illinois, and then once he had to face a real Big Ten defense, it seemed like. And once Satterfield had to call plays against a real defense, it just kind of went. And then when he missed that throw to Liebentritt or Lindenmeyer, whoever it was, I think it derailed him for a good 3 or 4 games. So,
well, it would have also helped if we could have had a running game that could have taken a little pressure off him.
Yeah,
if just Satterfield didn't establish a good run game at all,
to leave Emmett Johnson on the bench too much, I think he'd have been better off. But I got to thinking about that when you were talking about Dylan too in past episodes, Derrick. Since the season ended, one of the things that crossed my mind was I know it's complete speculation and it's a what if, but my thought is, well, what if he was playing behind that Georgia offensive line after Carson Beck got hurt? What if he had a running game like Georgia had at times, and what if he had some of those receivers? Would he have had as overwhelming a first season? I don't know the answer to that, but yeah,
I think ultimately he's missing a lot. I think
he's got the talent.
We got to upgrade a lot on offense next year.
Yeah,
people have to step up.
Yep. And I think for most part, there's probably a net gain on offense so far, but we'll see. I'm doing everything I can, and I know it's late January, so it's easy to say I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid, but I'm doing everything I can to just leave that crap in the
Isn't that kind of a cycle? Isn't that like a typical Nebraska fan cycle? The season ends, and then you're like, I'm not going to buy into the Kool-Aid, and then spring ball comes around. It's like, yep, I'm all in.
You can't help yourself.
Spring ball comes in. This is the time of year where it's like, I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe. Not going to do it. What will we do?
I don't even know if it's necessarily spring as it is once you get into fall camp. Once you start reading all the articles in fall camp, that's when the Kool-Aid starts turning really red.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I get a little pumped up after spring too.
Sure.
But it's when fall's here and you're 2-3 weeks out and you're reading all the practice reports and you're seeing plays from practice and you're sitting there going, man, this team looks really good.
Dudes are making plays.
And you can't figure out whether the defense isn't playing as well as they should or the offense is doing better. But you always try to hope for the best, I guess.
I'm with you, Coach. My Kool-Aid gets heavy in July too.
Yeah.
Last year I did my best to mix that stuff with half sugar, but it didn't really work out too well. So, but yeah, I think he makes a good point. Satterfield hampered 15 more than we thought truly at the time.
I think I might try making my Kool-Aid with vodka this year.
But yeah, I've been known back in the day to do exactly that. So anyway, let's hop in. Let's get to this over-under game. Our first category was passing offense, I believe. Oops, I just did. There we go. 2024, the over-under I set for the passing offense was 2,850 yards. I'm sorry, guys. Usually I have the season rankings for all of these, but I actually didn't grab the numbers until after the bowl game, so I had to go through all the bowl game numbers and subtract the offense and defensive production from the bowl game, but then I couldn't really get an accurate what I thought the national ranking and Big Ten rankings were pre-bowl game. So apologies for that. The actual was actually 2,737, so I wasn't too awful far off. 15, 20 yards a game off, maybe, if less than that. Scott picked 3169, as he is wont to do. He likes that number combo at the end. Justin, you picked 2880. I was over at 2926, and Derrick was under at 2700. So, Derrick, you won that category. That was a pretty good guess. Really, really good guess.
Well, and again, I thought people were just expecting a little too much out of him. I was hoping to be wrong in this situation, really.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like he played bad. Like he had some good games. He had some games where he struggled a little bit, but you could definitely tell. So there was some freshmen in him. I mean, he had some growing to do.
For sure, he definitely looked like a freshman at times. One thing I noticed, though, and I think it drove a lot of Husker fans nuts, is it looked like he never lost his poise. In some ways, he looked a little too lackadaisical, but he never looked like he was rattled. To me, he played like it at times, but he never gave off the body language that he was, and I appreciated that about him. Excuse me. You got anything on that, Justin, on that first category?
No, I think we were all pretty much in there. I mean, nobody was completely like out of it, like a huge outlier.
Well, there's the first bonus question. Most receptions on the season. Three of us, Justin, Scott, and Derrick, picked Jamal Banks. I picked Thomas Fidone, and it was Ja'Cory Barney at 55. Quite frankly, I was really surprised to not see Jalen Lloyd really produce anything this year. I've often wondered, was he deeply in the doghouse? Was he not producing in practice? Was he on somebody's crap list? Because it was so disappointing. He was so explosive last year.
Yeah.
Maybe he couldn't get open except on those long go routes, and that's probably not Dylan's strength right now. I don't know.
Very underutilized, that's for sure.
Let me guess. Is that Matthew?
That might be my son.
Okay. He said hi to me on here before we got started. So Ja'Cory Barney with 55 receptions. So nobody won that particular category. Rushing offense, I had the over-under at 1,980. Scott was under at 1,869. You were under at 1,920, Justin. I was over at 2,042. I really thought we'd get 600 to 800 yards out of Emmett and probably 500 to 600 out of Dowdell, and then have a few other guys contribute 100 or 2 throughout the year, like Ramir and whatnot. So that's where I came up with the 2042 on the over. But Derrick, you guessed 1,900. 1,567 was the actual, and Scott came closest at 1,869. So Scott got that. What do you guys think happened with the run game? Why was it so far? I mean, it was below last year. Last year we were what, 2,000 yards over the course of the season? Well, quarterback run, right?
Well, you definitely lost that. And then for most at least first half of the season, probably first three quarters of the season, you never established a running back. You just I'm not sure this running back by committee. I'm okay with it if it works, but I'm not so sure it's going to work. I think a running back needs time to get into a groove, and they just don't let them do that. They run a couple plays and they pull them. It just seems like they never get in a groove to go.
Do you guys know what the breakdown?
And they hit holes very good. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Do you guys know what the breakdown is of starters? Who started how many games out of the running backs? Do you know that?
I didn't look that up. I apologize. I never looked. I think, wasn't Dowdell the starter for most of them? Or did Ramir got a couple, didn't he?
Ramir got a couple.
I don't remember.
He got a couple, but then it was Dowdell and Emmett, but Dowdell might have had more starts.
I think he started 6 or 7.
Okay.
And then got hurt.
Buy that.
And I think Ramir had a couple. I know Ramir and Emmett basically split in the bowl game, and that was a nice combo to see between those two. So, all right, next category. Let's take a look here. I've got to remember how this works. I haven't done slides in so long. Most carries. We all guessed Emmett Johnson, and it was Dante Dowdell with 143. So none of us won that category.
And I will stand to it to this day that Emmett Johnson was our best running back.
I will too.
I
I will too.
Very
And
puzzling.
it's like Derrick said, we never really let a guy, even with Dowdell when he started, he never really got to get into a rhythm. Maybe he was in for a series or two. I don't know. I think a guy needs at least 3 series before you really kind of know what he's going to do in the game. Don't you guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, you would definitely think so. I don't think anybody really anticipated Dowdell having near the playing time he got to this year when the season started. It seemed like it was going to be. If you'd have asked me, matter of fact, I believe we did talk about this. I really thought it would be the Johnson and Johnson show.
Yeah,
me too.
And Dowdell, I mean, he ended up being a great short yardage back. Like he's a powerful kid. He couldn't break him open. But the problem with Emmett Johnson was even when he did start actually starting and playing more, he was hit and miss. Some games he looked really, really good, and then some games he was just on a milk carton.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I would have been cool to have a productive, law firm on the field, Johnson, Dowdell, and Irvin. That would have been pretty cool.
Yeah.
But we didn't. So it is what it is. Ready for the next category? All righty, off we go. We got scoring offense per game. I set the over-under at 26.5. Scott went over at 28. You were over, Justin, at 27. I was over at 27.3. Derrick was under at 25. The actual was 23.5. What was it? Less than 20 last year, 2023. So we had a marginal improvement, but it certainly could have been quite a bit better if we had any kind of play calling at all. And that was after 44 points, against Wisconsin and 40 against the opening game against UTEP and whatnot. So it was pretty abysmal.
So
really,
I think what happened, everybody thought that the offense was going to be a lot better, right? Because we had a 5-star quarterback coming in. And if you point to last year, why did we not win as many games? It was because, you could point to quarterback play. We didn't have a great quarterback play. We thought that was going to instantly improve. And the passing game did improve. But I think the balance, like it was counterbalanced by the lack of running game out of the quarterbacks to produce points. And so the running game with the running backs, the traditional running game, it did not do as well as what we thought. And then we completely missed out on having a mobile quarterback this year. And points just weren't scored like what everybody thought they would. We thought the wide receivers were going to be better. We thought the tight ends would be better, the quarterback, and none of it was as great as what we thought it would be.
Well, and here's where I'll pick on Dylan Raiola just a little bit. Is his long ball was not accurate. I mean, he
needed
was
help. Yeah,
he was very low percentage on 20+ yard passes, and I think a lot of people were anticipating a 5-star quarterback being able to connect on at least quite a few more of those passes than what he did. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
especially
I don't know
when
that you need to be 50% or above on those long passes, but I mean, he was down like to 30 percentile. I mean, it was
it that high?
It might not have been that high. I don't know.
I don't know if it was that
low.
high. I mean, especially after seeing that absolute seed he threw to Jalen Lloyd in the spring game, that was just perfectly placed, perfectly way out in front. The one thing I'll say about his inaccuracy, if you will, on the long passes, the one thing for sure about most of them was the only person that was going to get that ball was the receiver. So if he missed, it was usually an overthrow. And you're sitting there going, he missed by this much, a lot of times in some of the games like Iowa and like a couple of those passes against Boston College that were just
another pass that I would really like to see him improve on is those corner passes to the end zone. We didn't connect on a lot of those either.
Those fades.
And look, he did the same thing in those. Like he put it where only a receiver was going to get it, but our receivers never got him, and so we ended up settled for a lot of field goals because he wasn't connecting on those passes as well.
Yep,
and that's not all on him. Like you should be able to run the ball in at some points too, and we didn't run the ball well efficiently either. So between the two, it really hurt the scoring. And when we talked about this to start the season, that was my concern. I mean, we improved by, I believe, 5 points, almost a little over, almost touchdown better. And so, I mean, like Scott has a 28. That's a 10-point improvement.
Yeah.
That's a big improvement for an offense.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wasn't sure it was quite there yet. And next year I hope for it to be a little bit better. I hope we're closer to that 28 next year.
Would be nice for sure. All right. Next category. I believe we're into our scoring bonus categories, which I have 2 of those. The first bonus question was who gets the first touchdown catch? Scott and I said Jalen Lloyd. Justin said Thomas Fidone. You said Isaiah Nayor, Derrick, and you were correct. So you won the last category and you won this one. I remember I was in that corner of the end zone that Isaiah broke that tackle and kept his balance, put his hand on the ground, stood up and ran 20 yards in the end zone. I thought, oh my God, we've got a dude. And then he went on a milk carton for about 9 games this season. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
And still led the team with touchdowns.
Yeah.
Hey,
still.
How many touchdowns did Fidone and Lloyd combine for this year?
0.
Did Fidone even have one?
No, he didn't.
No.
Lloyd didn't either. He had one in rushing, didn't he? Not receiving. Didn't he have a rushing touchdown?
I would have to look.
Like,
I don't know. I know Barney didn't
like
have
an
a receiving touchdown, but I know he had 3 rushing touchdowns, but I'm not sure about Lloyd.
There you go. Maybe not Lloyd at all. That's why he went to the portal. Wants the ball.
He wasn't utilized. Yeah.
No, he certainly wasn't. So, all righty. Before we move on, or wait, we've got one more of these bonus. First touchdown run. We all, Justin, you and I said Emmett. Scott said Barrett, Liebentritt, and Derrick, you went way out on a limb with Dylan Raiola, but Dante was the guy who got the first, so nobody won that category. There seems to be a pattern here on the bonus questions. It ain't pretty so far.
No.
But before we move on, I just got to go do a quick ad read like you guys have to do each week. Underdog Sports. We are Underdog Fantasy Sports. Scott and I are partnered with them. It's the easiest way to play fantasy sports. Just go download their app, sign up, and deposit a minimum of $10 using our code GENRED, or if you want to use CuzCast, right, guys?
That's it. CuzCast.
CUZCAST, and you can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. So go to Underdog Fantasy Sports today and have some fun. With the NFL playoffs coming to a close, I bet there's a lot of props up there for guys to jump in on. So a lot of fun. I haven't tried it yet. I'm like Mike from the No Block No Rock Con. I'm probably going to deposit $50, get the $1,000, and then end up with 38 cents in like 3 weeks. I just don't want to go there.
It happens
because I suck at gambling. So, all right.
George Costanza, and just do the opposite of what you want to do.
There you go. Yeah, George Costanza. There, yeah. Pick against my gut, right?
Yeah.
So, first defensive category was passing defense. I set the over-under at 27.50. Scott picked 29.69. Justin was under at 2,700. I was under at 26.80. And Derrick was under at 25.50. The actual number was 25.16. Derrick, you came really, really close on the passing defense, just like passing offense. And that won you that category as well.
I got to say, Ken, here, I'm really glad that the Husker Cuz Cast is kicking ass in these categories, but I'm really tired of seeing Derrick's name here all the time. Okay? I got to say that.
Well,
make better picks.
You're gonna continue to be tired.
I think I'm second on a lot of them.
Spoiler alert, you're going to continue to be tired. You're not going to get very well rested over the rest of the show.
I know.
But yeah, this is one of my favorite things that we do. It's a lot of fun. So passing defense bonus question is, who gets first interception? 3 of us said Tommy Hill. Scott said Deshaun Singleton, and the result was Malcolm Hartzog Jr. So once again, we're all shut out on the bonus question. Which game was that in? Was that in the UTEP game or was it the second game? I don't remember when we got our first interception. Anybody in the chat know?
I'm pretty sure it was UTEP.
Okay.
Tommy Hill had one against Colorado.
Yeah, that was yes, he did. That's another question.
Oh, Whoops.
You're good. You're good. So, rushing defense. Let's see. I set the over under at 1,050. Scott went over at 1,337. Justin was over at 1,164. I was over at 1,326, and Derrick was over at 1,300. So yeah, no rest for the rest of us there, Justin. Derrick got it. He was closest, and man,
He's close on all these.
Everybody was close on that one, though. I mean, there wasn't a big.
Yeah.
No. My over under is the one that was bad. But I was going kind of based off of last year and added a little bit just for the fall off because people are going to be used to the defense. But yeah, they gave up a little more than I expected. Just over 100 yards a game. I mean, that's not god awful, right? So
No, I'll take that most years.
Yep. Who causes the first fumble that gets recovered? Justin and I said Ty Robinson. Scott said Prince William Yellen, who is now at Ole Miss. Yeah. And then you said Jamari Butler, who's now at LSU. But the actual was Willis McGahee IV, so there was no winner on that category as well.
I would not have guessed Willis McGahee if you gave me 20 picks.
Yeah, me neither.
No.
The fact that these freshmen got in and played so much early on and established themselves throughout the season is truly remarkable. Vincent Shavers and Willis McGahee, they were like stars out there. I mean, I can't wait to see what they're going to do over the next few years.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
All you could do is hope for no sophomore slump, right?
Yeah.
Like, because they shined so much in their freshman year. The expectations for them, because everyone's going to assume they're going to take a massive jump. So their expectations are going to be through the roof.
Well, they're the only position group that's not getting a different coach on the defense. So you would think at least they'd be consistently as good as they were last year, at least. And I think quietly Dvoracek's one of the best coaches on the staff. Because there's one thing those guys picked up quick was how to play linebacker.
And you know what's funny about that? Like, if you want to rewind to when Matt Rule was hired and he was building up his staff, Rob Dvoracek, that was a guy that a lot of people, including me, was highly critical about because it seemed like he did not have the coaching pedigree or just the coaching experience to step into a Power 5 program like this.
To be fair, we were pretty critical of all of them. I remember being critical of Terrence Knighton. Because he had only been an assistant D-line coach. He had never really been a full D-line coach before.
Right.
But it turns out that some of the criticisms was truly justified, right?
Some of them. More offensively than defensively. But
you're right.
Yep. So, scoring defense per game. We had set the over-under at 20.5 per game. The actual was 18.8. Scott guessed under at 19.5. Justin guessed under at 20.1. I guessed over at 20.8. I was Derrick was the same. He was about as pessimistic as I was, but not by much. And they were pretty close to last year's production as far as scoring on defense this year. But when Scott got the closest, so he won the category. I got to look. I can't remember what last year's was. I never looked it up.
I'm thinking
it's 18. In that 19.
It was 18 last year.
18. So yeah,
so it's not the same as this year. And I think everybody assumed that the defense would take a slight step back. We were playing better offenses.
Yeah,
people were going to be a little used to this defense, and we'd be able to have film on it and figure some stuff out. And really, they did a pretty good job of not allowing much. I mean, the funny thing is so I was looking at this just yesterday or earlier today about the pass defense, and we gave up so many touchdowns on pass defense that it shocks me that our overall scoring was that low. But we gave up we gave up little on rushing, so I guess that helps. But we gave up I think 9 more touchdowns on passing than we did last year.
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. I took that category out when we did this, and just for time purposes. But yeah, that would be interesting to look back at. And especially that Illinois game, it seemed like when we gave one up, it was wide open. I mean, it was Tommy
and
Hill
rushing
trying to
would have
run on
been
a
way
bum foot.
better. Rushing would have been way better. We ended up giving up 5 touchdowns rushing to Indiana.
Yep. Yeah, you take that scoring average and you take out that Indiana and you take out the Ohio State game, which was I can't remember what the next highest score, or no, you take out the Illinois game, and that defense was pretty solid when it comes to scoring. So, and with Tony White, and maybe there was some disconnection. I know you've heard all the shows talk about it. There was definitely a disconnect between Tony White, Matt Rule, and John Butler as far as the schemes and how things should have been run, especially on the passing side of things. That, from what I understand, Matt Rule wasn't really kind to Tony White after the UCLA game, and he shouldn't have been. That was a pitiful performance by that defense as far as just letting them just charge down the field like hot knife through butter.
Especially when you look at what we did to Ohio State, and they went 1 for 10 on third down conversions, and then UCLA comes in and converts like their first 7 or 8 third downs. Yeah, it was like, what are we doing? Like, we just stopped number one. I mean, the national champion. We just stopped them from on 9 of their 10 third downs, and we can't get one goddamn third down stop on UCLA.
To quote the late great Bob Euchre's color man on Major League, you can't say goddamn on the air. Nobody's listening anyway. One of my favorite movies of all time. It's probably my favorite baseball movie, right up there with Bull Durham, are probably neck and neck for my favorite 2 baseball movies because they're so freaking funny.
You gotta include Sandlot.
Yeah, Sandlot.
Sandlot, Field of Dreams. Yeah. All right. Scoring defense bonus. Who gets the first sack? You and I, Justin, were simpatico with Jamari Butler. Scott said Isaac Gifford. You said Nash Hutmacher, Derek, and it was Mason Goldman. I think it was his only sack of the year, too, in the UTEP game. So
that was the first sack in the UTEP game?
That was the first sack. I had to look twice, but yeah, he had the first sack of the season against I wrote it down when it happened. I barely
remember that guy's name.
Yep.
He's not even on the roster anymore.
It was like third or fourth quarter when the bench was empty and we were up 40-7. He got because they showed basically nothing to Colorado on defense in that game. It was all 3 dudes rushing straight at the quarterback. There was no exotic blitzes. There were no real twists or anything. So Colorado had no idea what was coming the next week.
Another Major League quote. This guy's dead.
Yeah, this guy's
Cross
dead.
him off then.
Dude, yeah. I'm going to have to watch that again. Oh,
I could not quote that whole movie. So,
no, you were wrong, Kool-Aid Man. Derek did not win the next question. None of us did. We all got shut out again.
I'm still not convinced that's correct.
I literally was sitting in the stands, bud, and I knew it was whoever got the first one. I went right into the Google Doc on my phone and I updated it from the stands. So I was like, "That's weird."
Wow. Awesome.
So, and I think he was the only one in the game that got a sack too, if I remember correctly. So, next question we have got first special teams or defensive touchdowns. Justin and Scott said Tommy Hill, and you and I, Derek, said Ja'Cory Barney on a punt return. And what do you know?
Why was that wrong?
Just a little.
Hey, what was our longest punt return this year?
Like,
did we have a double digit?
We might have.
Return?
Ja'Cory might have had. I know IGC had like 2 that were longer than 1.5 yards. That was about it. And then
is that when he fell forward?
Yeah, exactly. And then you had one. I think Barney. I know Barney had one long kickoff return that really kind of got the game going against Wisconsin. But other than that, our kickoffs returns were crap, and he didn't do much on punt returns. Half the time he'd go in to start some of these games at punt returner, and he'd wave for a fair catch inside the 10-yard line. And next thing you knew, there's IGC running back there again. So, but Longest punt return was
let's hope
89 yards, or was that our total punt returns, Kool-Aid Man? I'm guessing that's total.
Yeah, I would remember an 89-yard punt return.
I would too. I would have had a pulmonary embolism.
I think I'd
had
remember
one of
that
those.
15-yard punt return at this point.
Yeah, me too. Me too. All right, so the totals. Obviously, we know Justin, you and I are not even in the running.
No.
But Derrick won most categories. Scott won with 4. Scott won 2. Hoover won 6 bonus questions because we all suck. And Derrick got 1, and you and Scott split 1, Justin. So there you go. That's the result.
I don't even get full credit. Come on.
Nope. Nope.
You know what?
I guess I could. I'll give you. Yeah, you get a full 1 point. It's not like I'm tallying this shit up, and after about 10 years, I'm going to tell you everybody what their overall totals were. So
I'm going to want to know who won the 20s. In 2030, I want to know like who had the most right answers in the 2020.
Who had the most right? Yeah. We'll barely. I can't imagine we could probably live stream from like a VR headset by then.
Nobody's going to see that, Ken.
Yeah. No, probably not. Probably not. So, holy cow. Hey, well, I don't have anything else on the docket for the show.
So I got a question for you.
Topics you want to throw out there? Go for it.
Okay. I kind of text the cousins this question today, but it's kind of a 2-part question here. But looking ahead, like, okay, so everybody's somewhat satisfied with Rule this year. We got the bowl game really helped him. Winning that bowl game took a lot of heat off of him. Yeah, having a winning record helped. So heading into next year, everybody's expecting this massive jump. What's a minimum record that that Matt Rule could have without to not put him on a hot seat the following year?
I don't know if 6 wins is going to keep him off the hot seat. I'm not exactly sure if 7 wins would keep him from the seat warming a touch, especially with his 3rd-year track record. But it's also a different landscape of college football now. What he did when he had those great 3rd years, he was able to develop players for the most part because he didn't have to deal with a transfer portal and dudes re-recruiting your roster every year. So I would think 8 would be safe, and I think 8 is doable when you look at that schedule. I really believe 8 is absolutely doable.
So the second part of this question is, what record could Matt Rule have that you would be scared a bigger team would come and try and steal him from us?
It depends on if James Franklin's seat's warm ever. I'm not sure it ever will be.
I can't imagine his is not for a while. Not after his run in the playoff this year.
I'm not sure where he would go. I mean, what other job would he be interested in if he wins 10 next year? Because I would say the threshold would be 10. You get to 10 or 11, I'm sure there's a lot of teams calling. Maybe Dabo hangs it up. And maybe a Clemson could come in and offer a crap ton of money. I just don't see.
What about like a USC?
That's a possibility too.
Because like Lincoln Riley's almost gonna be like another 6-6 record away from like disaster.
Yeah, to be fair, Matt Rule is kind of too.
That's fair, and that's fair. I'm not saying he's not. I will say this, with Lincoln Riley, I think his expectations were much higher than Matt Rule's.
Oh, definitely. They're both paid about the same, though, right?
Yeah, I mean...
Well, there you go.
Relatively close.
Huskers throws it out there. 11 wins and Rule is gone. Do you guys think if he wins 11 games here, somebody big enough comes calling that he's out? I mean, what if Kalen DeBoer?
There will definitely be some offers at that point. I don't know if he'd leave or not, but there will definitely be offers.
10 wins.
I would start worrying.
I'm nervous at 10 wins. Especially with a good playoff win.
Because at 10, you're not a guaranteed playoff spot, but you're in the conversation of the playoff at a bare minimum, if you're not in the playoff.
I mean...
So I guess that brings one more question to you. If you win 10 wins this year and your 2 losses are Penn State and Michigan, are you in the playoff talk?
depends on what Michigan's record is. Does Sharon Moore win 10? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can count on Franklin to win 10. But
unless USC has a really good year and that win looks better, I don't know if you have a good enough win to really put you into the playoff.
So help me out here. Were there any 10-win teams from a power conference that were left out of the playoff? Do you know that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Because the teams that were in consideration, they were 9-win teams, right? Alabama,
right.
Ole Miss,
Alabama,
South Carolina. I don't think there were any.
Again, it would depend
if
on
it
how
was,
it
it would have been
out.
like a group of 5 10-win team that maybe got left out.
Out of Power 4 teams, I keep saying Power 5, it's only Power 4 now. I think if you win 10, you're in.
Power 2.5, really.
This all kind of stemmed from Athlon's way too early Big
Top
10
25.
rankings. It was Big 10 rankings. And they had Nebraska finishing 7th in the Big 10. And so I was trying to figure out, is that good enough to be 7th in the Big 10? And I started looked at it, and that was where Michigan was 7th this year, and they were 8-5.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but they were 7-5. They won their bowl games to make them 8-5. And I'm just not sure if that's enough of a jump for Rule to just be
okay. Let me frame the question this way: is 7-5 good enough, Derrick, if you beat Iowa? Much like 7-5 was good enough for Sharon Moore, Michigan fans weren't too unhappy because what did he do? He beat the rival.
It would
meanwhile, there's a good portion of the Ohio State fans that are like, yeah, the national championship is great, but it's got an asterisk. And that asterisk is Michigan.
I'll say this. One, the Nebraska-Iowa rivalry is nowhere near what Iowa or Ohio State and Michigan is.
No, but it means a lot to us around here.
It does, but I'll say, too, I think it's a little different scenario in the fact that it was Sharon Moore's first season as opposed to Matt Rule's third season.
Third, right. I mean, everybody's going to expect that he's going to knock out a double-digit win season because that's what he's done everywhere he's coached college football. We're going to.
And I hate that expectation.
I do too.
I
know I'm going to.
That.
I'm going to, like I said early in the show, I'm trying like heck not to drink the Kool-Aid, but I'm going to get to, August. I'm going to be like, yeah, I can see 10 wins all.
Because you're going to look at the schedule and you're going to go,
yeah,
on paper we're better than at least 9 of these teams. Maybe not. So. I think so. The only ones I would say are better than us on paper are USC, Michigan, and Penn State.
I mean, and that's the trap that Nebraska fans fall into every single year. I mean,
every year.
You're not considering the teams that have beat us in the previous year or beat us like often. Like UCLA again next year. You better not count that as a win. You're going to.
I'm not
UCLA
counting it out as a win.
Year.
I am saying that on paper we're a better team than they are. Doesn't mean we're going to win the game. We might go 5-7 for all I know, but we're still better on paper than most of those teams. We've been better on paper than Iowa for the last 10 years and only won one of them.
I would say
we've been better on paper than Minnesota for numerous years and have been beat by them.
If we're better on paper, then we're better on paper preseason. We're not better on paper
once you get into the
game week.
Yeah,
we are. We're just we're out coached.
Yeah, we get out coached a lot. And it's so hard because, like you said, Derrick, it's so easy to fall in that trap. We're better than this. That's why Scott and I have made it a point the last couple of years, and it's kind of a fun exercise that we do, but there's a little bit of point to it too. We go back and we go, this is if we're picking each game from a realistic point of view of what Nebraska has done, or let's pick it through the Roulade eyes, if you will, or the Kool-Aid eyes. So we do both. And we had 7-5 last year. We ended up 7-6. So I don't know. I'm not sure what would keep him safe, to be honest with you. But I think if you got to 8 or 9, I think people would be fairly satisfied. But yet at the same time, they'd go, yeah, but he won 10 and 11 in his third year at his last 2 stops. What happened?
So
Well,
the way
I'll tell you right now, that's an unfair expectation. I don't
NIL
expect to win.
happened.
I know, but I think 8 or 9 is probably where I
Sure.
sit. Like 7, I'm not complaining too much. Like I'm sitting here going, okay, but
seven, but 7 wins next year is like the absolute bare minimum. Kind of like this year, 6 wins was the absolute bare minimum. 6 wins was not a successful season, but it may not have been an unsuccessful season. Maybe it would trend towards more to an unsuccessful season. But next year, in year 3, 7 wins is the absolute bare minimum. And I don't know if that is considered a successful season next year. It would probably have to be 8 wins. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, right? You know, how the games look and injuries and all that stuff. But
105-man roster,
but yeah,
completely different.
But 6 wins next year, it absolutely will not cut it.
And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the same thing I said last year. Like, if you're going to get to that point, you better win 6 of your first 7 games. Because the last 5 games are getting tougher.
Yeah. You better be bowl eligible by the time you roll into mid to end of October, in my opinion. If you're going to get to that 8-9 threshold, you need to be bowl eligible.
You're going to have to go on the road, and you're going to have to learn to beat Maryland. You're going to have to go on the road and learn to beat Minnesota. Michigan, I'm not going to count that as even necessarily a winnable game. I don't think it's an unwinnable game, but then you got Michigan State. Like, you need to be able to beat Michigan State. You can't have a hiccup in the non-conference. You have to win all 3 of those games.
Sure. Let me ask you guys this. Could you say, and I think I've heard you say it on your show before, and I'm pretty sure we've said it on ours. Wouldn't it be safe to say that on paper, Nebraska has probably had better talent than most of the teams that have beat them over the last 7 to 8 years?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We've been out coached so many times.
Yep.
That's one of the most frustrating things about being a Husker fan is we should not be losing the games that we've been losing to. We should be better than these teams.
Yep.
And year in, year out, we've underperformed.
Yep.
Well, and the worst part about it is we always find a way to lose. Like, it's just the most absolute kick in the nuts circumstance happens every game. Look at Iowa.
Yep.
Outside the Mike Riley era, the Mike Riley era was a disaster against Iowa. I mean, they just floored us. But Scott Frost, always close games. We always seem to fumble it or throw an interception or miss a field goal or something stupid to lose.
It was always end of game heroics for Iowa against when Frost was here, and it hasn't changed.
So far under Rule, it's been the same thing. Hell, the only coach to beat him since Bo Pelini in 2014 was our interim head coach, who was only here for 6 months. I mean,
Mickey Joseph.
And we damn near gave that one away at the end too.
Yeah. And it's not just Iowa. It's so many games. That
we're so good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory, as they say. So, anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yes, Ken, I have a personal question for you because I know that you have started something new. You've started something else out of the Gen Red podcast, and it is about golf. And me and Derrick and Tyler, us Husker Cuz Cast guys, are huge golf fans. Love golf,
right? And
you are starting something new. Tell us about it.
It's a brand new channel, actually. It's not going to be associated really with Gen Red at all. We might do some Gen Red content up in the simulator, but I've got a fully functional golf simulator up in the garage in the third car. It's got a Carl's Place impact screen. Is a $200 impact screen. It's 8x8. That's biggest I could go. And I've got a nice launch monitor, and I've got some really cool simulator software. So I've started a YouTube channel because I suck at swinging a golf club, so I call it the Struggle Swing Golf. I thought, we're all on the struggle bus trying to figure out how to swing a golf club, so I thought combine the two and Struggle Swing Golf. Actually, ChatGPT told me they thought it was a pretty cool name. So, in fact, that's how I created our new Generation Red logo and all that good stuff. So yes, Struggle Swing Golf. Anybody wants to search that on YouTube, there's absolutely no content up there yet, but please get subscribed. I will be posting some videos here, probably, if not this weekend, then shortly after the weekend. I'm going to build this one completely different than I did this channel, in the sense that I'm going to have content in the can, probably up to 5 to 10 videos done, uploaded, and they all drop at the same time. That way, if somebody enjoys what I do, they've got something to watch as soon as the first one's done. That really helps the algorithm too, from what I understand. So,
Ken,
yep.
You may suck at swinging a golf club, but I know for a fact you're very good at throwing a golf club.
I've thrown them, and I never found that 8. I've been out there twice, and I still haven't found that freaking 8 iron.
You're not helping me, Ken.
No.
I've been trying to talk the boss into letting me get a simulator, and she does not think it's necessary.
No.
Just drive to
At
Ken's
work?
house so you can be part of the show.
Well, I
Yeah.
got another buddy that's just about a mile and a half down the road too, but it's not the point. I want my own.
Yeah,
So-
I got you.
Ken, is
I
it a
got
weekly
you.
show?
I'm not sure if Huskers is asking about the golf or our show.
No, he's talking about golf. We're all talking about golf right now.
The plan is, I'm hoping to have content come out at least once a week. Yeah. And there's going to be multiple forms of content. The first 2 things I've filmed so far are me sitting here in the studio and doing a tutorial on some things you can do with the settings in the simulator software that I use. I've
Nice.
seen a lot of those videos on YouTube. Some of these guys are pretty good at explaining stuff, but they're not very good, and their shit's really long. And I don't like sitting through a 40-minute tutorial on 1 or 2 settings. So I came up with a 4-minute tutorial on 1 setting that's quick. I show them how to set it, show them how to hit shot. In fact, what I did was 2 videos. One video was on how to use a mouse to play a golf simulator software that I use. And it's just basically you set it up, and it's kind of tricky to hit golf shots, but you can play golf if it's too cold, in the garage or whatever. I can sit here in the studio and play with the same software. And then the other one I did was a driver setting. You can actually boost how far your driver goes, and the launch monitor might say it rolled out to 225, but you can boost it all the way up to 400 if you want.
Cheat
It's pretty. So it's a cheat code. It's just a lot of fun.
Up, down, left, right, BA start.
Yeah.
Man, right?
Yeah. So, and then the plan is I'm going to do some live streams with other YouTube content creators that use the same software, because there's an online match feature.
Are you
I'm
using
planning-
E6 Golf?
What's that?
Are you using E6 Golf?
No, I'm using GS Pro.
Okay.
It's $250 a year, but I mean, I'm not, and you can play all kinds of places. There's like replicas of a lot of famous courses, like Augusta. There's a replica in there. There's a replica of Pebble, Bay Hill, Doral, all that stuff. Plus, there's some courses around here that I was able to download that I've played. So that's kind of fun.
Look
but
for your
yeah.
8 iron out there.
I've got like 3 of them. And I haven't thrown any of those. But an impact screen will take an impact from a thrown wedge. I do know that for a fact. So,
Nice.
and it hasn't broken the club yet. I'm like, no, if you hit the impact screen first, it's going to get rid of all the momentum. The club will drop, and no harm will come to it. So,
Well, I can't wait
But,
to see this, Ken. This sounds awesome. This sounds a lot of fun.
I've had a bunch of friends from church, the guys that I go golf with all the time. They've come over and we've played a lot, and it's an absolute hoot. You can set it up to, you can putt if you want, or you can set it to automatically putt, or if you get on the green, get inside a certain circle, it'll give you an automatic 1 putt or a 2 putt. So that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
It
speeds it up that way.
Yeah, it does, especially when you got a group of dudes over and you want to try to get at least 9 in. Most of the time we can't even get 9 in because we're too busy BSing. So
Are you guys watching the TGL?
Yeah. Have you been watching it?
Yeah.
It's been all right. I mean,
I'm such a degenerate. I've been betting on it. You can bet on
Underdog Fantasy Sports, right?
it. I don't think it's on there, but
I don't know. Now that I've kind of gotten into the launch monitor nerd side of my personality, I watch that and I go, Tiger's even said it. I don't hit my wedge that dang far. When he hit that one clear over the green, it goes in the water. He goes, I've never hit this club that far. I don't get it. So the launch monitors are they're using radar. The full swing system is a radar-based launch monitor. So they can be wonky based on lighting. So I don't know. 60-foot, what is it? A 20-story screen or some kind of crap. It's like that they're hitting into. It's pretty amazing. And then that green's pretty wild too. So
That is,
I don't know.
yeah, that's a sweet
But
green.
Kool-Aid Man asked if this is a weekly show. I'm not sure. Oh, Jen Red also weekly. There it is. That's the one I was looking at. Thanks, Huskers, for the question. I appreciate it. We are during the season. Right now, we're in the off season. We're going to do another show on Monday with our two of my regular cast members, and we're going to kind of go over our off season podcast schedule. I think we've got 12 or 13 of them scheduled for the off season, so maybe once every 2 or 3 weeks. But once the season kicks off, once we get to fall camp, we'll basically be doing every week. And probably 2 or 3 during spring game month as well. So anyway, this is fun. I like doing this. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I hope the golf does something because it'll be a great option to cross promote between the two. Never hurts to get more eyeballs on what we do here and what I'm doing over there. So, and of course, anytime you guys are in town, you happen to be blasting into Lincoln or pass it on to Tyler as well. Just send me a text.
We probably will not pass it on to Tyler, but I'll be always.
If we want to have fun, we will.
Don't pass it on to Tyler.
Invite Tyler, okay? If we want to have fun.
Yep. It's I'm going to do a walkthrough. That's the filming schedule for tomorrow. Is I'm going to go out in the garage and do a full walkthrough of the whole sim setup, so that people can see it, and then I'll post that along with a couple of tutorials. I've got a video plan that I'm going to do at least, if not once a week, probably once a week. It's called the 5-4-3 challenge. It's where I go to any one of the courses on GS Pro and I play a par 5, a par 4, and a par 3. And my goal is to finish 3 over or less or under. So yeah, that's the plan. And then of course, live streams. I'm hoping my boss will be willing to come over and give me some lessons in the sim. So I get them free anyway. So why not come over and do that in my sim? That's awesome. Yep.
You're a lucky man, Ken. You're a lucky man.
I am indeed blessed. No doubt about it. So anyway, guys, anything else? What do you guys got going on? You got any exciting news? Anything new?
So for the Husker Cuz Cast, I think we'll put out one episode once we find out a special teams coordinator is hired, whatever that is. We'll do a recruiting thing, and then we're going to enjoy some time off here up until maybe a week before spring ball starts. And then we'll be active all through spring ball. And then we'll do our usual, May, June hiatus. But we'll be back. We'll be ready for 2025 season, probably end of June, early July. And it'll be week to week after that. So we're going to enjoy time off. We're going to be playing a lot of golf here. I mean, I'll be playing a lot of golf before Derrick does, living here in Texas. But
hey, I golf every Friday, bud.
Yeah, he does a simulator golf too. So I mean, he's
dude, that's cool. You've got a simulator league. Is that what you're doing? Yeah. I'm hoping to do one of those. I'm hoping to do one of those with my buddies. Just have some guys come over every Friday night and play 9 holes somewhere. And yeah.
It's not as good as real golf, but it suffices.
Yeah, you got to swing a club, talk smack.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what we like to do. So. Yeah.
All righty.
Check out the Husker Cuz Cast. We're on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at Husker Cuz Cast. You can find our podcast anywhere you get your podcast. We are not on YouTube yet. I mean, I think I've been saying yet for like the last 2 years. So.
Yeah, I'm still waiting, Mr. Procrastination.
Don't hold your breath on that. So Tyler's not here, so we'll blame Tyler why we're not on YouTube.
There you go. Hey, it all works. That works.
Yeah.
We like to blame Tyler for everything.
Yeah. When he's not here.
Even when he's here.
Thanks, Kool-Aid Man. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all the guys that have interacted in the chat. Huskers, Kool-Aid Man, and others, the BA Coaches Show and Simple Life. Thanks, guys, for popping into the comments. We really appreciate all that you guys do. We appreciate everybody who listens, who watches the show, who downloads it, which, of course, the audio for this show will be available sometime in the next, probably tomorrow. We do have a merch page. You can go to genredpod.com. There is a bar at the top of the page. It's a gray bar. Click on the link in that bar. It'll take you to our merchandise. The updated logo that you see up to the left of the Big Red Roundtable logo at the top of the screen, that will be incorporated into our merch soon. So I will let everybody know when that happens. At GenRedPod is our, excuse me. My voice gets so dry when I'm just sitting here talking. I don't know what it is, but GenRed Pod is where you find all of our stuff at GenRed Pod on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. And until next time, for the cousins and myself, we are the Big Red Roundtable on behalf of the Husker Cuz Cast and Generation Red. And we are here as often as we possibly can be to let everybody know that no matter what, there's no place like Nebraska, and eventually we will return to greatness. Because there's no place like this place, is there?
Make Nebraska great again.
Make Nebraska great again. In rule we trust, as Coach BA says. All right, y'all. God bless. Good night. And we'll talk to you again soon.